I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition for their speech. I welcome the Government Whip for their speech. Here.
Okay, good morning to all of the judges, members of the opposition, and members of the floor. I would first like to start this by addressing a contradiction that you guys made. So first, the first speaker of the opposition team said that conflict doesn't have to be aggressive, which alludes to conflict being some sort of disagreement. But then the second speaker goes on to say that conflict does not mean arguing. So there's clearly a contradiction in what you consider conflict to be. Another thing that I would like to address is the first speaker, by saying that conflicts do not have to be aggressive and alluding that conflict refers to disagreement, suggests that by their argument, they are saying that disagreements between different people has not occurred due to the lockdown. This is clearly not the case, because we can see all over the world that certain people are protesting against the lockdown and some people are protesting for the lockdown. And there's this ongoing debate in society as to whether health is more important or if the economy is more important. So clearly we can see that there is a disagreement and conflict there.
My first speaker has mentioned that society conflict does not equal physical arguments.
He did not use the word physical.
He did.
He used the word conflict does not have to be aggressive, or which alludes to, if it's not physical, that means it's verbal, it's a disagreement, which proves my point. Because you have disagreements that are either physical or not physical. If they're not physical, they're a disagreement. So you're agreeing with me here. So another thing that the first speaker mentioned is the decreasing crime rates. My second speaker has rebutted that. But a decreasing crime rate does not mean there is less conflicts. There are conflicts that occur in other areas, such as the racism that we have pointed out, domestic violence, and ongoing issues, mental health issues that create more outrage in the society, creating riots and creating more protests than usual. The issue of scarcity, which my second speaker has mentioned, regarding how the rich have the opportunity and the ability to buy out everything in the markets while leaving the poor with a lack of resources. The economy is falling. These are all social conflicts that are at hand here. The government weaponizes this lockdown situation to gain favor of the public by saying, hey, look, we've dealt with the issue really well, when this is all just part of their political propaganda. And so this is used to create more societal conflict. And lockdowns can also be used as a form of silencing people, preventing protests, and all these things. Now, another rebut that I would like to make is on the second speaker. She addressed that, hey, domestic violence is under control, and being in a lockdown will encourage a one-on-one talk with the abuser, which makes no sense. Because if you're an abuser, it's clear that you have a psychological problem. And if you have a psychological problem, no such communication is going to be effective. Why didn't you sit down and talk before the lockdown? Why didn't you get that sorted out before the lockdown? The lockdown only provides a bigger opportunity for the perpetrator to continue to perpetuate their domestic violence. And plus, another thing that you mentioned was helplines. How on earth is helplines going to help you? Helplines are there to help you release stress and internal conflicts through communicating with them on the line, feeling like someone is there for you. And it's great to do that. But when physical violence is the problem, you're going to have physical implications. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have things that do harm to you physically. And helplines can't save you from that. And if there's an obstruction of escape by your abuser, or if aid and these sorts of things don't prevent that from happening, they just treat it. And so it can be argued that lockdowns do perpetuate domestic violence and abuse. And you said that people in lockdowns are more willing to seek help since they don't have an escape. There's no statistics to prove this. And this is just an assumption because it makes no sense. If you understand the psychological dynamic and the dominance hierarchy within an abusive relationship, it's obvious that the people don't seek help in general. They could seek help before, but they're not willing to seek help in general because of that psychological dominance power struggle that's going on. People silence themselves. There's nothing restricting them from speaking out, but they do that because of the psychological dynamic, as I've mentioned. Another thing is about discrimination. What you said is people blindly discriminate, and you admit that discrimination and racism against the Chinese happens. So you admit this happens. So let me get this straight here. You admit racism happens because of this situation, yet you say this is not a conflict. That's what I want to get. You say that lockdown does not create conflict, but you admit that the Chinese are facing discrimination and racism.
Yeah.
Yeah?
To answer, yeah.
Okay. And then you say that these kinds of situations will encourage the government to take action and improve society. So you're saying there is a societal conflict. That's why the government needs... Huh?
UI.
Yeah.
To clarify my point, the discrimination already happened. So because of this happening, the government really can take action.
Already happened when? Before all this happened? Before the pandemic?
Before pandemic, during this pandemic, discrimination already happens.
So it's not perpetuating.
Perpetuating?
It's not continuing. More cases are not happening because of this pandemic. Is that what you're saying?
You mean domestic violence?
I mean discrimination.
I mean discrimination?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's continuing to happen.
Yeah, but the government can take action from it.
But are they?
Order. One question.
Okay. If you're saying that the government can take action against something, it means something has occurred. And if something has occurred, that means societal conflict has occurred. And finally, you say that, for example, in France, hotels have payments for victims of abuse. Again, this is treatment. This is not prevention. It doesn't say anything about how this issue is not created in the first place. It just shows, oh, we're helping you out. Helping you out is not the same thing as preventing these things from happening or saying that these things don't happen. So I'll just finally go over that's it. Thank you.
All right. I thank the government whip for her speech. To conclude today's debate, I welcome opposition whip. Here.
Test? Okay. Sorry, 1 second.